Have you ever stood in front of the mirror, carefully dressed, your accessories in place, your favorite lipstick on, and yet something still felt off? You did everything right, you paired the right shoes with the right pants, you added that necklace you've always loved, so why doesn't the outfit look as polished as you imagined? I can tell you, more often than not, the culprit isn't the pants, the jewelry, or even your hairstyle. It's the blouse. For women over 50, this is especially important because our style needs evolve. At this stage of life, fashion isn't about chasing every new trend. It's about refinement, about wearing pieces that highlight the woman you've become, confident, elegant, and self-assured. And while a blouse may seem like a simple item, the wrong one can quietly undo everything else you've worked so hard to put together. It can shorten your silhouette, overwhelm your frame, or make your look feel outdated in ways you don't even notice until you catch yourself in photos. That's why this video matters. This is not a list of rules or restrictions, and it's not about telling you what you can't wear. Instead, it's a guide to help you see blouses differently, to recognize the subtle details that either age you or elevate you, and to give you beautiful alternatives that feel modern, flattering, and, most importantly, comfortable. Because the right blouse doesn't just cover your body, it shapes your presence. Stay with me, because in today's video, I'm going to share 6 common blouse styles that can make women look older than they are. And for each one, I'll show you a smarter, more elegant choice that will help you shine. Number 1. Ruffled and floral blouses. I still remember a blouse I owned in the 1980s that I thought was the epitome of feminine charm. It was covered in tiny pastel flowers, with ruffles cascading down the front and lace trimming the sleeves. At the time, I felt beautiful in it. I wore it to church, to dinners, even to school events for my children. But years later, when I pulled it out of the closet and tried it on again, the effect was very different. Instead of feeling romantic, I felt like I was in costume. The details that once seemed sweet now overwhelmed me, and instead of enhancing my features, they exaggerated every little change in my neckline and shoulders. Have you ever had that moment when you try on something you used to love and realize it no longer flatters you the way it once did? That is the challenge with blouses overloaded with ruffles, lace, and small florals. They create too much visual noise, especially around the neckline and shoulders, areas that naturally change as we age. According to the American Society for Dermatologic Surgery, by age 70 most women experience at least a 30% loss of skin elasticity around the jawline and neck. When you surround that area with layers of ruffles and fussy prints, you end up drawing attention to the very features you may want to soften. Instead of lifting your look, the blouse can actually make you appear older or less polished. I had a client named Margaret who kept a powder blue ruffled blouse because her husband had once told her she looked lovely in it back in 1984. She wore it to a luncheon recently and was shocked at how heavy it made her upper body appear. She told me, "It feels like the blouse is wearing me, not the other way around." That's exactly the problem. When there are too many competing details, the blouse takes center stage and you fade into the background. Let me ask you, do you have a blouse like this in your closet? One with frills, lace, or tiny florals that you keep because of nostalgia? And when you put it on, do you feel elegant, or do you find yourself tugging at it, wondering why your outfit feels off? These are questions worth asking, because the truth is that clothes should make you feel like the best version of yourself today, not remind you of who you used to be decades ago. The good news is that you don't have to give up femininity or romance in your clothing. You just need to update how it's expressed. Instead of small florals scattered across stiff fabric, try a blouse with a larger, more abstract print on a neutral base. Instead of layers of lace and ruffles, choose clean lines in a soft, flowing material. Fabrics like silk blends, tencel, or cotton poplin provide gentle movement without overwhelming your shape. They drape in a way that flatters rather than conceals. I replaced that old floral ruffled blouse of mine with a simple ivory silk top that has a softly curved hem and sleeves that flutter just slightly at the wrist. No ruffles, no lace, just clean design. The first time I wore it, my favorite pearl necklace finally stood out, and I felt modern without sacrificing femininity. That is the transformation the right blouse can bring. It's also worth noting how prints affect perception. Fashion psychologists often point out that larger, more spaced-out prints create a sense of openness and balance, while tiny repetitive florals can make the body look busier and heavier. In fact, a 2021 study in Fashion and Textiles found that garments with dense, small-scale patterns were consistently rated as less flattering on mature figures than garments with larger, simpler designs. The research confirms what many of us have noticed in the mirror. Simplicity reads as modern, while busyness can read as dated. So before you reach for that blouse with the little flowers and ruffles, pause and ask yourself, is this blouse enhancing me, or is it distracting from me? Does it give me space to shine, or is it demanding attention for itself? These are small but powerful questions that can change how you curate your wardrobe. A dear friend of mine, Susan, once wore her favorite ruffled floral blouse to a party, only to feel disappointed when she saw the photos afterward. She said, "I thought I looked soft and pretty, but all I could see was fabric. My jewelry disappeared, and my posture looked slouched even though I was standing tall." When she swapped that blouse for a structured tunic in a solid jewel tone, she was amazed at how much taller and more confident she appeared. That's the beauty of choosing modern alternatives. A blouse in a solid color, or one with a bold yet simple print, frames your face and lets your personality shine. A neckline with clean lines elongates your neck, giving you an effortless lift. A fabric with gentle drape skims your body, allowing your jewelry and accessories to sparkle. Less fuss does not mean less style. In fact, less fuss often means more elegance. So, if you still have a ruffled floral blouse hanging in your closet, try this experiment. Put it on, look in the mirror, and then immediately change into a solid silk, blend blouse with a modest V-neck. Compare the two. Notice how one makes your face look more open and your shoulders more defined, while the other makes you feel like you're hidden behind decoration. Which one feels like the woman you are today? Once you experience that difference, it becomes much easier to let go of pieces that no longer serve you. Clothing should evolve with us, not hold us back. By choosing blouses that are softer in fabric, cleaner in design, and bolder in print scale, you'll find yourself looking and feeling more current, more confident, and more authentically you. And now that we've talked about the way ruffles and florals can overwhelm, let's move into another blouse detail that may be tempting but often works against us: oversized, voluminous sleeves. They can look dramatic on the hanger, but once you understand how they affect your proportions, you'll see why they might not be the best choice. Number 2, oversized voluminous sleeves. I remember going to a friend's birthday party a few years ago wearing a blouse with big balloon sleeves. At the store, it looked fun, dramatic, almost playful, and I thought it would make a statement. But as soon as I arrived and saw the photos later, I realized something was off. The sleeves were so huge they completely covered the delicate bracelet I had chosen. They made my shoulders look twice as wide, and my neck seemed shorter. Instead of looking elegant, I looked unbalanced, almost as if the blouse had taken over my body. Have you ever had that experience where you put effort into your jewelry or accessories only to have the sleeves of your blouse completely steal the spotlight? Oversized sleeves can feel tempting because they are dramatic, but in reality, they often distort proportions, especially as we age. According to a 2019 report from the American Council on Exercise, women over 50 often experience changes in posture and natural muscle tone in the upper body. When you add layers of fabric puffing out around the shoulders and arms, it exaggerates those changes, making the upper body appear heavier and less defined. Instead of highlighting grace, the blouse ends up hiding it. I once worked with a client who was petite, barely 5 feet tall, and she had bought a top with lantern sleeves that puffed all the way from shoulder to wrist. On the hanger, it looked stylish, but on her frame, it swallowed her entire upper body. She joked that she felt like a parade float, and sadly, she wasn't far off. What was worse is that her favorite silver watch and ring went completely unnoticed. The blouse became the focus, not her. And isn't that the exact opposite of what we want at this stage of life? We want clothes to enhance us, not erase us. Let me ask you, do you have a blouse in your closet with sleeves so wide or layered that you can't comfortably slide a jacket over it? How many times have you left one behind because you knew it would bunch up under your coat, wrinkle at the elbows, or feel heavy the moment you started moving? Clothes should fit our lives, not fight against them. If a sleeve makes it impossible to layer, impossible to show off your jewelry, or makes you feel restricted, is it really serving you? The solution is not to avoid interesting sleeves altogether, but to refine the volume. A blouse with a gentle puff at the shoulder, or a sleeve that gathers slightly at the cuff, creates softness without distortion. A 3/4 length sleeve is one of the most flattering for women over 50 because it highlights the forearm and wrist, areas that remain graceful and expressive at any age. It also leaves room for a bracelet, watch, or ring to shine. Did you know a study published in Clothing and Textiles Research Journal found that when women wear garments that reveal the wrist and forearm, they are perceived as more elegant and approachable? That little detail can make a world of difference. Fabric matters here as well. Natural fabrics like cotton voile, silk crepe, or rayon drape softly and move with you, instead of standing stiffly like costume fabric. When you choose a blouse with a light, breathable material and a sleeve that whispers rather than shouts, the result is movement, balance, and grace. Think about colors too. Neutrals or soft shades in a sleeve with subtle detail will frame your face instead of overwhelming it. Imagine a dove gray blouse with a small gathered cuff or a sage green top with a slight flutter at the wrist. Those are details that feel intentional rather than theatrical. I'll share one more personal moment. At a holiday dinner last year, I wore a blouse with bracelet-length sleeves and a modest notch at the neckline. My granddaughter reached for my hand and said, "Grandma, your bracelet is sparkling." That comment stayed with me because it reminded me that when our clothing frames us rather than competes with us, people see us. They notice our expressions, our jewelry, our smile, not just the clothes. That is the goal. So the next time you're shopping, ask yourself, will this blouse highlight me, or will it hide me behind a cloud of fabric? Try lifting your arms in the fitting room, try layering a jacket over it, try placing your favorite bracelet on your wrist. If the blouse allows those things to shine, it's a yes. If it drowns everything out, it's a no. Clothes should support your confidence, not take center stage. Now that we've talked about sleeves, let's look at another detail that often sneaks into our wardrobes, the neckline. High, tight collars may seem safe, but they can be surprisingly aging. In the next section, we'll explore how necklines affect not only proportions, but also how fresh and open your entire look feels. Number 3, high necklines. One of my clients, a woman in her late 50s named Carol, once came to me convinced that high necklines were her solution to feeling more comfortable in her clothes. She said, "If I just cover my neck and chest, no one will notice the lines or the skin I'm insecure about." It sounded logical, and I completely understood her reasoning. But the first time I saw her in a blouse with a tight, high, rounded neckline, I noticed immediately how different she looked compared to when she wore something a little more open. Instead of softening her features, the neckline made her face look heavier. Her neck looked shorter, her jawline sharper, and she felt less radiant overall. She told me later that she couldn't figure out why she looked older in photos, even though she was wearing something she thought was safe. That is the tricky thing about high, closed collars. They may feel like they're covering flaws, but in reality, they often create new ones. A blouse that closes tightly at the neck can flatten the bust line, create a boxy shape from shoulder to waist, and make the upper body look heavy. The National Center for Biotechnology Information published a study on age-related changes in posture that found the head naturally tilts forward more with age, which can already shorten the appearance of the neck. When we add a blouse that rises up and closes in, the effect is doubled. Instead of feeling polished, we feel closed off. I want to ask you something. Do you have a blouse or sweater with a high neckline that you keep wearing because you think it hides your neck or décolletage? How do you actually feel when you see yourself in it? Do you look refreshed, or do you catch yourself tugging at it and wishing your face looked lighter? Sometimes the pieces we believe are protecting us are actually holding us back. I remember making that mistake myself years ago. I had a turtleneck blouse that I wore to a family dinner one winter. I thought it looked sleek, but when I saw the pictures later, I couldn't believe how round my face appeared. My necklace sat awkwardly above the fabric, and I felt like all the effort I put into my earrings and makeup disappeared. The blouse covered so much that there was no space for my features to breathe. Instead of me, people noticed the blouse. The solution is not about showing more skin. It is about creating openness and space. A modest V-neck can elongate the neck and naturally draw the eye upward. A boat neckline that sweeps gently across the collarbone creates width where you want it and frames the face beautifully. A notched neckline adds just enough detail to break up the fabric without feeling revealing. These are thoughtful alternatives that give definition and shape while keeping you comfortable. Did you know that, in a survey conducted by Good Housekeeping with over 1,000 women over 50, more than 60% said they felt more confident in blouses with some kind of open neckline compared to those with closed, round collars? That's not a coincidence. Our eyes naturally respond to vertical and diagonal lines, and those shapes create lift and length. Fabric plays a role here as well. Soft, flowing fabrics like silk crepe or lightweight linen allow open necklines to move gracefully with you. They don't cling or flatten, they simply frame. And with the right necklace or a delicate scarf, you can make the neckline your ally instead of your enemy. Ask yourself, when you picture yourself entering a room, do you want your neckline to create heaviness, or do you want it to create lightness and openness? I think about Carol again, my client. When she finally tried on a blouse with a notched neckline in a dusty rose silk, her entire expression changed. She smiled at her reflection and said, "I feel like I can breathe again." That's exactly what happens when your neckline works with you instead of against you. So before you reach for another blouse with a high, closed collar, pause and try something with a little more space. You don't need to reveal anything you don't want to. You just need to choose a shape that frames your face and gives your neck the length it deserves. When you do, the difference is immediate, not just in how you look, but in how you feel. And now that we've uncovered the power of necklines, let's turn our attention to something just as important: fabric. Because even the most flattering shape can fall flat if the material looks cheap or clings in all the wrong places. In the next section, we'll talk about lightweight fabrics, how to spot the ones that age you, and which options bring quiet sophistication instead. Number 4, cheap lightweight fabrics. I'll never forget the time I picked up a blouse at a discount store because the fabric felt soft and the price was just too good to pass up. It was a pale lavender top made from polyester that promised to be easy care and wrinkle-free. I wore it once, and by the end of the evening, it had stretched at the seams, clung in places I didn't want highlighted, and caught the light in a way that made it look shiny and cheap. After one wash, the shape was completely gone. The blouse I thought was a bargain ended up looking tired and worn out almost instantly. Have you ever had that happen? You buy something that seems like a great deal, only to realize later that it betrayed you the moment you actually wore it out in public. Cheap, lightweight fabrics like low-quality polyester or thin rayon have a way of tricking us. They feel smooth when you run your hands over them in the store, but the reality sets in once you put them on. They wrinkle at the slightest movement, they cling to undergarments, and under bright light they can turn translucent. That kind of fabric doesn't just cheapen the blouse, it cheapens your entire look, no matter how carefully you styled the rest of your outfit. According to a consumer report by the Textile Institute, synthetic fabrics such as low-grade polyester are up to 3 times more likely to show visible wear after only 5 washes compared to natural fibers like cotton. That statistic explains why so many of those so-called easy blouses end up looking limp after just a short time. One of my clients, Deborah, had a similar experience. She came to me frustrated because no matter how much effort she put into her clothes, she felt like she always looked less polished than she wanted. When I examined her wardrobe, I noticed that many of her blouses were made of lightweight polyester blends. They were clinging at the wrong spots, slightly see-through in the sunlight, and often wrinkled at the elbows. She told me she bought them because they were inexpensive and seemed practical. But the truth was, the fabric was undoing her entire look. Once she swapped a few of those blouses for cotton poplin and tencel, she couldn't believe the difference. She looked fresher, more sophisticated, and her clothes actually held their shape. Let me ask you this. How many of the blouses in your closet have lost their finish after just a few washes? Do you find yourself ironing them over and over again, only for them to wrinkle the minute you sit down? And most importantly, do you feel confident when you walk into a room wearing them, or do you feel like you need to constantly adjust and check that nothing is showing through? These are the little signs that the fabric is working against you. The good news is you don't need to spend a fortune to upgrade your fabrics. Cotton poplin is one of the best options, crisp enough to hold shape, but soft enough to stay comfortable all day. Tencel is another favorite of mine. It drapes beautifully, resists wrinkles, and feels breathable against the skin. Silk blends or matte silk alternatives bring quiet luxury without being fussy, and linen blends offer that effortless charm without the deep creases of pure linen. Did you know that according to the Council of Fashion Designers of America, Tencel is now one of the most sustainable fabrics available, using up to 80% less water in production than traditional cotton? Choosing it not only makes you look elegant, but also supports a more responsible wardrobe. I replaced that ill-fated lavender blouse with a soft ivory silk blend top. It has a modest V-neck, holds its structure even after hours of wear, and feels smooth against the skin. Every time I wear it, I feel polished without effort. My accessories finally stand out, and I don't spend the whole evening worrying about wrinkles or transparency. That's the difference quality fabric makes. So, the next time you're shopping, I encourage you to pay attention to the label. Feel the weight of the fabric, hold it up to the light, and imagine how it will look after several washes. Ask yourself, will this blouse still look elegant after a year, or will it be one of those pieces I regret buying after one wear? Choosing wisely saves money in the long run and builds a wardrobe that supports your confidence. Now that we've explored the impact of fabric, it's time to turn to another trap many women fall into: oversized, shapeless blouses. They may seem comfortable, but they can erase your figure and leave you looking less polished than you deserve. Let's dive into that next. Number 5. Oversized, shapeless blouses. I understand why so many of us gravitate toward oversized blouses. After 50, comfort feels less like a luxury and more like a necessity. We don't want clothes that cling or make us self-conscious, so the temptation is to reach for something roomy. I remember one summer when I bought a loose tunic in a bright color, thinking it would be my go-to piece for travel and casual dinners. It was light, it was breezy, and it felt like it would hide everything I didn't want to draw attention to. But when I wore it, the mirror told me a different story. The blouse didn't just hide the parts of me I was insecure about, it hid everything. My waist disappeared, my shoulders looked sloped, and instead of looking effortlessly chic, I looked like I had thrown on a curtain. Have you ever felt that way, like your blouse was wearing you, rather than the other way around? The problem with oversized tops is that they erase the natural lines of the body. The Journal of Fashion Marketing and Management published a study showing that garments with undefined structure tend to reduce perceived body height and shape, especially in women over 50. That explains why oversized blouses often make us look shorter and broader than we are. Even if you have on polished pants or elegant shoes, the overall effect still feels unfinished, almost careless. I had a client, Linda, who was petite and loved wearing long, loose blouses because she thought they covered her hips. But in photos, she always looked heavier than she actually was. When we tried a blouse with a slightly curved hem and a soft drape that skimmed her waist instead of drowning it, her entire look changed. She looked taller, slimmer, and more confident. She laughed and said, "I can finally see myself again." Isn't that what we all want to see ourselves, not get lost under a pile of fabric? Let me ask you a question. Do you have blouses in your closet that you keep because they're comfortable, but when you wear them, you secretly hope you don't run into anyone you know? Do those tops give you confidence, or do they make you feel invisible? Comfort should never come at the cost of elegance. The two can absolutely exist together if we choose wisely. The solution isn't to give up relaxed fits, it's to choose them with intention. A blouse that gently skims the body, with a little shaping at the waist or side slits at the hip, offers ease without erasing your figure. Fabrics like tencel or soft cotton poplin drape instead of hang, so they follow your body in a flattering way. Even small details, a crisp collar, a button cuff, a subtle pleat, add structure that communicates polish instead of sloppiness. According to research from the American Apparel Association, garments with even minor structural details are perceived as more stylish and age-appropriate across demographics. That means one small tweak in design can completely shift how your blouse is received. One of my favorite tricks is the French tuck, tucking just the front of the blouse into your waistband while leaving the rest loose. It instantly creates definition at the waist without sacrificing comfort. Adding a thin belt over a relaxed blouse can do the same. Accessories can also rescue a looser top. A long necklace or a statement scarf adds vertical lines that lengthen the body. Think about how these small touches could transform the way you wear your more comfortable pieces. I'll share another personal story. Last Thanksgiving, I wore a soft linen blend tunic with side slits and a bracelet-length sleeve. It wasn't tight, but it wasn't drowning me either. I added a slim leather belt and tucked the front just slightly into my trousers. Not only did I feel comfortable enough to cook, move, and play with my grandchildren, but I also felt put together when we sat down for dinner photos. My daughter even said, "Mom, you look elegant without even trying." That's the balance we're aiming for, freedom without losing refinement. So, I encourage you to look through your closet and pull out your oversized blouses. Try them on and ask yourself, do they show the world a woman who cares about her presence, or do they make you look like you're hiding? Clothes should frame you, not erase you. If a blouse feels like a tent, it may be time to let it go. Replace it with something that breathes, moves, and shapes just enough to remind you that your body deserves to be seen. Now that we've explored the risks of oversized tops, it's time to examine another trap: blouses overloaded with embellishments. Too many bows, ruffles, or tassels can turn even a well-cut blouse into something that feels more like a costume than an elegant outfit. Let's talk about that next. Number 6. Overloaded embellishments. There was a time in my 40s when I couldn't resist a blouse with details. If it had lace panels, bows at the collar, decorative buttons, or embroidery across the sleeves, I was sold. I felt like all those extras added personality and charm. But when I look back at pictures now, I can see what was really happening. The blouse was loud, and I was hidden behind it. Every frill competed for attention, and instead of looking polished, I looked fussy. Have you had that moment too, when you put on something with multiple details and then wondered why the outfit felt more like a costume than your true style? Too many embellishments are distracting. A study published in Psychology of Aesthetics, Creativity, and the Arts showed that people perceive outfits with more than 3 competing focal points as cluttered and less harmonious. That's exactly the problem with overloaded blouses. Each bow, tassel, or ruffle may seem charming on its own, but together they overwhelm the natural elegance of the woman wearing them. Instead of seeing your face, people see the blouse. Instead of admiring your necklace, they're caught up on the oversized bow at your neckline. Instead of noticing your energy in a conversation, their eyes keep darting to the lace trim and embroidery. One of my clients, Janice, brought me a blouse she thought was perfect for an anniversary dinner. It had pearl buttons, lace cuffs, a large tie at the neck, and embroidered roses on the chest. She said it reminded her of romantic evenings from years ago. But when she tried it on, she frowned at her reflection. She looked smaller, as if the blouse was wearing her instead of the other way around. She admitted she felt awkward, as though she was in costume for a period drama. Once she swapped it for a clean, ivory blouse with a single notched neckline detail, she lit up. The difference was immediate. Her jewelry, her smile, her presence finally had room to shine. I want to ask you something. When you stand in front of the mirror in a blouse filled with bows, ruffles, and decorative trim, where do your eyes go first? Do you see yourself, or do you see the details? If your clothing is louder than you, it's a sign the balance is off. Clothes should never steal the spotlight. They should direct it back to you. The solution is choosing intentional simplicity. A blouse with one beautiful detail is far more sophisticated than a blouse with 5. A soft pleat across the shoulder, a delicate tie at the neckline, or a row of covered buttons can add just enough personality without overwhelming the entire look. When paired with quality fabric, like silk crepe, cotton blends, or linen with texture, the blouse doesn't need extra decoration to stand out. Your accessories, your hair, your confidence can do the rest. According to a survey conducted by Harper's Bazaar, women over 55 who preferred minimalist clothing reported higher satisfaction with their style and felt they looked more modern than those who favored heavily decorated pieces. That's proof that less really can be more. I'll share a personal example. For years, I kept a navy blouse with ruffles down the front because my husband once complimented it. But every time I wore it, I felt self-conscious. It clashed with my necklaces and looked dated. Eventually, I replaced it with a simple navy silk blouse with a slightly flared sleeve and no decoration at all. When I wore it to a family gathering, my daughter said, "Mom, you look so elegant." That comment meant more to me than all the ruffles in the world. Sometimes we hold onto pieces out of sentiment, but when we let them go, we make room for clothing that truly reflects who we are now. So before you buy or keep another blouse overloaded with embellishments, ask yourself, is this detail highlighting me or is it hiding me? Does this blouse allow space for my jewelry, my smile, my personality to shine, or is it competing with them? Simplifying doesn't mean boring, it means thoughtful. It means knowing that one detail is enough when the woman wearing it already carries grace. Now that we've walked through the 6 most common blouse mistakes, from ruffles to oversized sleeves, from high collars to cheap fabrics, from shapeless fits to overloaded embellishments, it's time to step back and look at the bigger picture. In the conclusion, we'll talk about how to edit your wardrobe with intention, how to let go of pieces that no longer serve you, and how to build a small but powerful collection of blouses that reflect the confident, elegant woman you are today. After 50, style is no longer about chasing every trend that comes and goes. It's about making wise, thoughtful choices that honor who you are today. The blouses you wear don't need to scream for attention or follow what's on the runway. They need to fit your life, your body, and your confidence. When you choose the right fabric, the right cut, and the right detail, your entire appearance changes. A blouse that drapes beautifully, frames your neckline, and complements your accessories can do more to refresh your look than an entire shopping spree of trendy items. So here's my invitation to you. Go to your closet this week, take each blouse into your hands, and ask yourself, does this still represent the woman I am now? If the answer is no, let it go with gratitude. Every piece you release makes space for something better, something that highlights you instead of hiding you. I'd love to know your thoughts. Which blouses are you ready to say goodbye to? And which styles are you excited to try next? Share your answers in the comments. I read every single one. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If you found these insights helpful, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next chapter in building a wardrobe that feels elegant, modern, and uniquely yours.